Hello, in this video we're going to talk about graphical user interface for Python. Up until now we learned Python and we tested the result of our code inside a terminal. But sometimes you want to create a user interface and show the user different forms so user could interact with your application. In order to do that, we use a package called Tkinter. So I'm going to create a brand new project. Let's do it on my desktop. I'm going to name it test project. So let's go to the Visual Studio and open the folder in my desktop. And now inside my test project, I'm going to create a app.py. So in order to use Tkinter, first we need to import it. To do that, we simply say import Tkinter. By the way, Tkinter is usually installed when you install Python, so you don't need to install it using the package manager. But if you received an error indicating that you don't have this package on your system, you could just install it using pip install Tkinter. So after you imported the package, now let's create a form for our application. To do that, I'm just gonna create a variable called app and it equals to tkinter.tk. So now app is the main form of our application and we can place multiple widgets on this form. Widgets like label, button, checkbox, and etc. If I run this right now, you see that nothing is happening. It's because your application window opens up and closes immediately after. In order to stop the application from closing, we're gonna say app main loop. So it will create a loop and keep your application open. Now if I run the project, you'll see it is going to create a blank form for us. You can move it around, you could maximize it and even minimize it, and you can just simply close it. Now we can change the settings of our application and add as many widgets as we want to the form. When we write app and we write dot, you'll see a list of the methods that you could use. Let's go through some of them. The first one is title. So when I call the title method, I'm going to open and close parentheses and I'm going to give a title to my application. Now let's run this and you see my application now has a title, my test app. Another thing you could do, you could define a size for your application. You could use app.geometry and inside that you're going to pass a string and inside this string you define the width. Then you're gonna write X and then you define the height of your application. Now if I run this, you'll see that the application opens as 700 in 400 pixels. So you could increase the size and you could maximize your project. You could also define a maximum size and a minimum size for your application window. So if I run this now, you'll see that I cannot go further than 800 and I can't go less than 200 for my window size on both X and Y axis. This way you could limit the size of your application window. You could also disable the maximize button. In order to do that, you can call app resizable and pass false false. So now if I run this, I can no longer maximize the application window. Now let's say we want to add a widget on our form. So we're going to create a label. I'm going to define a variable called label1. So this is going to be my variable label1. And then I'm going to say tkinter.label and open and close parentheses. Now the first thing we need to do, we need to determine which app this label is going to be placed on. Obviously the main app that we created here. So we're going to pass app. Now I'm going to use comma sign and determine a text for my label. Let's say text equals to hello, this is a label. We could also determine a font and a font size. So I'm going to write comma sign followed by font equals to the name of the font and the size of the font. Once we've created the label, it's time to place it on the form. In order to place it, there is 3 options that you could use to place a widget on your form. Let's take a look. The first method is pack. It's just gonna put the widgets one after another vertically or horizontally on your form. The other one is grid. So in grid you determine a row and a column index And there's also another method called place, which you're gonna use coordinates, and you can place the widgets on any coordinates on the form as you want. So let's go ahead and actually try each one of them. So right now, if I run the project, there is no label on my form because I haven't placed it yet. So in order to do that, let's use pack first. So I'm gonna say label1 dot pack. I'm gonna open and close parentheses. So if I run this now, you'll see that this is my label. Hello, this is a label. So this is one way you could do it. You could also pass an anchor to pack. So anchor equals to, for example, northwest. So now if I run this, you'll see that it's going to be anchored to the northwest. You could also pass pad X and pad Y, which is the offset on X and Y axis. So if I run this now, you'll see that there is a little offset. So let's actually increase the pad Y to, let's say, 50. And if I run this, you'll see that the offset is visible clearly. Now let's use grid instead. So I'm gonna remove pack. Now if I run this, there is no text. And in order to use grid, you write the widget name dot grid and you open and close parentheses. Now for the grid, you need to determine a row and a column. So let's choose 0 and 0. By the way, columns and rows are going to be started from here, the top left corner. So if I run this now, you'll see that it's going to place the label right over here. And just like pack, you can use pad X and pad Y for grid as well to give it an offset. So the last option is place. So let's do that as well. We're gonna write the widget name and we're gonna call place. Now we're gonna open and close parentheses and we're just gonna pass an X and Y. So X and Y are gonna determine the offset from top and left. So this is X and that is Y. Now if I run this, you see that we have our label here. Now, besides label, there are other widgets that we could place on our form as well. Let's place a button. So before we create the button, let's actually create the click event of the button. So to do that, let's create a function. I'm gonna define a function and I'm gonna name it button1 clicked. So whenever this function is called, I'm gonna print button clicked in the console. So let's go further down. I'm gonna define a new variable, call it button1 equals to tickenter.button, open and close parentheses. Just like the label, we're gonna pass the app. Then we're gonna determine the text on the button. Let's just say it says confirm. We could also change the font. And here, we're gonna assign the command to the function name. So whenever this button is clicked, this function is going to get called. Let's just place it on the form using place. And if I run this now, you see we have a confirm button right over here. And when I click it, it's going to print button clicked. So that's for our button. We could also place an image on our form. So in order to do that, first let's go ahead and open our project folder. So this is just our app.py script. I'm going to create another folder and you can name it images or pictures or whatever you want. So now we are going to put our images inside this folder. So I have this image right over here. I'm gonna cut it and then I am going to place it inside our images folder. Now pylogo.png is inside my project images folder. Now, first we need to load that image. In order to do that, let's go to our script. And here I'm going to define a new variable called logo image equals to tickenter photo image. Let's open and close parentheses. And here I'm going to assign the value of file, which equals to images pylogo.png. You don't have to enter the full path to the image because app.py and images folder are at each other's side. So you just need to pass the images folder address with the image name and extension. That's it. Now I'm just going to create another label called label2 and let's open and close parentheses. And obviously we're going to pass app first. And after that, we are not going to pass any text or font or anything. We're just going to pass image equals to logo image. Now that we have created that image, we can go ahead and place it. If I run the app right now, you see that the logo is way bigger than we expected. So in order to fix that, here when we get the image using photo image, we could use .subsample to change the size of the image. So the higher these values, the smaller the image will become. Now if I run the project, you see that is our icon, that is the label, and this is our button. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of other widgets that you could place on your form, and there are other packages. For example, there's a package called Custom Ticketer, which could give your application a better looking and a modern UI. So this was just the basics, and I'm gonna finish the video right here. If you had any questions, feel free to ask me, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.